Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ashwath. Thank you so much for joining in. Um, I believe a speaker request has been sent to you. Could you just accept it so that you'll be able to speak? Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sargam. I think you have to accept an invite as well.
Hi everybody. Jill, I lost you there. I'm not sure if everyone else is able to hear you. Hi Ashwath, good evening. I hope you can all hear me. I think something's wrong with my mic today.
No, it's working just fine.
Oh, great to know that. Hi, Ashwath. Thanks for joining. Hi, everyone else. Thanks for joining. Feel free to ask your questions, make your comments, drop in on the conversation. We have some things in mind because Ashwath has recently finished his UPSC transition, both professionally and mental health wise. So, we're going to learn from Ashwath about his strategies and what worked for him, and also what he had to stop doing to get to a place where, as he said himself day before yesterday, he started smiling again. That phrase brought a smile to my face because I was in that place about 4 years back, where I would smile externally, but inside all the time I felt like I didn't deserve to be happy, and I felt so numb, and all the time I felt like there's a sinking feeling in my chest. So I would love to have you introduce yourself, Ashwat, to everyone listening in, so that they have some more context. And then I'll tell them about the first conversation we had and how you discovered shores. Perhaps you can take that bit up as well. So over to you, Ashwat.
All right. First of all, thank you for calling me here. I value this space a lot. I'm very happy that I can contribute in some way. Let me start with a few disclaimers. My experience are purely my own. Sometimes you may not be able to relate to my experience because everyone is unique. Everyone has been through their own journey. So, but I just want to clarify that, it may not always be relatable. I have evolved my views about this exam over time. Some of those views may also not be agreeable to you, but I welcome all sorts of perspectives. I'm happy to hear them as well. I'm not any poster child of anything. I'm very much like everyone else. I'm also just hungry for opportunity, trying to make my way in this world, pretty much in the short time we have on this planet. So, okay, I'll give a very small brief about who I am or who I was. I've wanted to be a diplomat since I was pretty young, back in school itself, weirdly enough. I molded my life also in that direction. I studied political science. I studied international relations. Why? Because I wanted to be a good diplomat. I was very um, set on this. As far as my UPSC itself is concerned, I gave about 4 attempts. I didn't even clear prelims. I got close to one. Unfortunately, I passed the GS and didn't pass CSAT. So, there was that. Um, I took many years. And then I reached a point where I am 28 years old. I had not worked anywhere, absolutely anywhere. Even after my got my masters in 2018, I didn't go anywhere. I don't at 28 years old. I don't even have an internship to my name, unfortunately. So there I was when I got my prelims result in October. I think it was late October, early November. I don't remember when. Um, I didn't know what to do. I was thinking, of course, like many other aspirants do, maybe I'll give another. Maybe this is the attempt that will make it. That's typical gambler's fallacy. And a friend referred me to the shows beyond UPSC. I said, you know what, I'll just give it a shot. I don't think I would lose anything by it. I went. Um, I was absolute that particular session. It changed everything for me because I
I will just stop here so that we can tell everyone what that session was.
okay,
Ashwath, you may go ahead because I don't think they all have context of what the session was.
right, fair enough. So right after the prelims results came out, the session was about basically uh, we had an interaction with a psychologist who herself was a aspirant of the UPSC in the past, and basically she was debunking everything about our deep-seated beliefs about UPSC, about whether we should keep going with it, and holding burdens about writing the exam and all sorts of things. And that's where I met a lot of amazing people who I realized who are much like me. And I realized that this is a nice community building up, and that I don't have to feel alone in all of this, because that's what UPSC is. When you're in the process, it's actually a very alienating one. You always feel like you're alone. It's about you. It's about um, doing everything for yourself, and all of that. But the truth is that we are actually a much bigger community, um, when we see our own collective struggles. um, Maybe, yeah, I mean, I see it that way, at least. So anyway, this was where I realized that I don't have to hold on to this anymore. I can do anything else. um, I started a job search. It was tough, but fortunately, this is all luck at this point. I managed to not stay unemployed very long. I got myself a job in a so currently, I work as a geopolitical risk analyst with an international security firm, and I thoroughly enjoy my job. It's pretty much fits my interests, my profile, my everything. And I so at this time, and even when I was during my job search, I was just very miserable generally, because I felt like everything was a lie. I was so miserable. It was very involuntary. Like, even I needed my mom to tell me about what she felt was off about me. I had not realized these things. She was telling me, you don't smile anymore, you don't laugh anymore, you sigh all the time for some reason. I had not realized I was doing any of this. It had become like, it had become very bad in that sense. So the fact that I got my job at all, for me, it was just a lot of luck. Right place, right time, lot of luck. But I want to tell you something about what had happened, which made me realize how at what level these problems come when you're doing UPSC for too long, right? So, like, during my interview, I recall they asked me a couple of questions about things that I should have known. It was about me personally. For example, I could not. It was very tough for me to explain gaps in my CV. uh, I'm very fortunate that I'm working with an international company who are slightly more open to gap years and whatnot. But I can't imagine if I were under an Indian employer, it would have been much more difficult, much more challenging. And while I try to explain my gaps, um, it I was certain that it was not. It didn't seem very convincing to them. Like, and it's also sad, ironic in a way, because what I was doing was chasing my dreams, and I was studying really hard, and I had really put in some work, but I really have nothing to show for it, which is quite sad. And you can tell me all you want about, oh, there are things you learn from UPSC, etc., etc. I don't know. I'm very skeptical of that. I feel like if you spent 1 2 years, that's still all right. More than that, it becomes diminishing marginal utility. That you can't go. There's only so much that it can teach you. So there was that. And yeah, I couldn't explain my gaps, and I just was very underconfident. It was just a matter of luck, I guess, that I got through. Then it was after I made the transition out and I decided I've had enough of UPS, I'm not going back to that world anymore, that suddenly life changed for me. Like, I just that acceptance by anybody, and that they valued me as a person for my skills, for anything, it made me feel whole again. And it made me feel wanted. My own friends started saying, hey, look, you look happier. You don't seem as miserable as before. I didn't know I was exuding this, by the way. This is all something. It's all about it just, as they say, it just reflects even in your vibe. Even I also realized that when I was in the workplace for the first time, I was not very confident. Again, it's because years of doing just one thing, and one thing alone, It had kept me away from skills. It had kept me away from everything. And so I felt underconfident as opposed to my peers. So these are a lot of things I had to sort of deal with. But nonetheless, it was a sea change. Like, I'm a happier person now just because I've decided that I don't need to stick to something that doesn't serve me anymore. And I stopped having any ideas of rewriting it. For me now, it's a very, like, I have just made peace with myself that maybe this is not in my fate. It is that. That's okay. I right now my priorities are that I want to be good at my job at the moment. I want to make an impact where I am, and just be good, just enjoy the moment where it is, which I this is a feeling I had not had before. Earlier it was just about, we are all postponing our happiness for the future, like, I'll clear the exam and then I'll get the glory and the rewards and all of that. And then that's that. Why do we postpone our happiness for no reason? This is a lie that we will get it. What if it doesn't work, which in most of our cases it will not. So, but one thing I must say is that there are certain things I did which I believe helped me out in the process. Um, I am a academic also in my field. I write research papers, and this was something I did somewhere around 2018 or 19 is when I realized that I'm just miserable just doing UPSC. So I used to devote an hour every day to research, even if it's prep and all that. I really don't care. At the end of the day, I'll devote 1 hour to research just to stay in touch with something I love. So I became a published author. I used to do a lot of Model United Nations. So doing Model United Nations when you're slightly older is a little controversial in my circles because it's typically supposed to be a more young activity. But I used to do it nonetheless because I enjoy the whole process of public speaking and things like that, and just exercising my skills. And more importantly, it was important at that time because I really needed money, and this used to be a easy avenue for some cash. And that's also very ironic, because not ironic, but more like that's the big problem as well. Like, when you're not earning in your 20s, you watch your peers go by, and you're nowhere close in terms of life trajectory and all of that. That's okay. That's of course a fallacy comparing trajectories. But the fact that you're not able to, let's say, provide for yourself, or be reliant on your family for support, is very disempowering. So this mitigated that to a certain extent. It helped me travel and all of that. So there was that. um, so what I realized when I got out was that the world is actually a much, much, much bigger place than UPSC would have us believe. Ironically enough, we are deluded by the fact that because we learn a lot about the world and how it works through the UPSC, because we understand government structures and some crude form of international relations, that we feel like we know a little bit about the world. But the truth is that there is a much, much, much bigger world out there with a lot of opportunity, if we choose to go in that direction. And actually, ironically, UPSC closes you out to that while deluding us that it's about the world. It's not true. Uh, Before I sound very narcissistic and go on speaking about myself, what I really want to say is that I hope today what we take away from this is that the whole notion that we really need to invest in taking care of ourselves, because literally nobody else will. And the least of all is the UPSC. They are not really concerned about what happens to the aspirant when they don't make it, or even for that matter, even when you do. So, under these circumstances, given that nobody is going to be around to vouch for us, advocate for us, it's important that we understand the necessity of investing in ourselves. One thing there are of course many regrets I have after, in retrospect, when I was thinking about my UPSC journey. One of it was that, had I gone for certain social events during my prep, maybe I would have had the same outcome. I don't know why I missed all that. It was for nothing. Of course, it's not easy to come to these conclusions during your prep. It's always this very thing about, oh yeah, the grind and sacrifice and all of that. That's the hero narrative, right? We like to do that. We want to show that we gave it our all. We don't want to be lying to ourselves. But in retrospect, I felt like it was a lot of over investment, and it's I take responsibility for myself in that sense, that I didn't know where to stop. I didn't have that self control, nor it just happened the way it was. So yeah, this is my story. I I hope to hear from you all, and we can have a conversation about this.
Thanks, Ashwa. Thanks. I think the conversation will remain bi-directional, but I had two things to add here, two comments to what you were saying. One was when you said that you have to take care of yourself because nobody else is going to do that for you, especially the UPSC. I would like to point to the fact that this is actually something that they make you realize in cognitive behavioral therapy as well. The whole point of that therapy is to learn to think rationally about the world. A lot of times we get so angry at ourselves, at the world, because we have put in all of this hard work for the exam. And when we don't make it, we start feeling really angry and we start feeling cheated. But if you think rationally, now the world doesn't owe you anything just because you've put in a lot of hard work. The world owes you absolutely nothing, and it's up to you to decide more rationally about the odds of an exam, for which I think less than 700 people have cleared this year, if I'm not wrong. And and 5 lakh people are applying, and that number is not going down, but the number of seats is going down every year. So that is one. And the second thing that you said was that you missed out on so many social events. I totally feel you. I was studying for the UPSC alongside my first master's, and I did not make any friends. Just a second. I did not make any friends at that time. I did not go to social events. I didn't take part in college activities. So this time, as I'm doing my second masters, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, go on.
I'm not sure. I can't hear myself. Hello.
You're audible, Sargam.
Okay, okay, great. So I was just saying that as I'm doing my second master's, one of my main priorities is to make sure that I make the most of the college experience, not in terms of academics, because, sitting in a room and studying, that is done and dusted now in my life. But I'm making sure that I'm making the most of things I can only do while in college, and also making friends and having fun, because I feel like I've missed out on a lot of fun in my early to mid 20s. So, yes, with that, Ashwath, and everyone else, I will hand over the conversation to Jeel. And please feel free to add your comments and say other things. I have an exam on Saturday, so I do need to study just enough so that they don't kick me out of college. And I will see you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sargam. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Ashrat, for that introduction. So, among the many things that struck me, one of the first that I would like to bring up right now is, was there a series of moments, or was there one single moment when you realized that I'm not going back to UPSC? Like, how did that realization dawn upon you?
Mm, I think in retrospect it would be cumulative, but there's always that one moment that triggers it. So maybe the trigger for me was the session where I took a lot from other aspirants, and of course, as the psychologist who was there that day, and she had told us that. So first of all, it was all about Uh, so when you're giving up on something like this, is also about giving up about your own identity, and because we mix our identity into this whole issue, we make it into an identity issue, that this is who I am aspirant, I am whatever. And to say one day that this is not something I'm going to do anymore is going to be a big crisis in your identity. For me, I think I saw signs of it before itself. Obviously, when you're not having success in something like this for a while, it anybody would start thinking. But then of course it's always, but what brings you back is always these stories that people put out, right? Like, this person cleared in the fifth attempt, in the sixth attempt, whatever. It keeps compelling you to delude yourself to keep trying. Some people, they might, that's for sure. The fact that that people clear in their later attempts is proof of that. But then I decided to bring it to an end, because I had enough in terms of my regrets. All that happened was that I just kept thinking about the regrets. I no longer saw myself as fulfilling that role. I felt that, let's say I did get in by any chance, at this point I spent so much of my life away on it, I don't know if I will enjoy it fully. So that just happened to me. Like, I know people's experiences are different, but it's my advice, in fact, that if you ever find, you have to be very honest with yourself at some point of time. If you do see that it doesn't make sense to you. That vision of you fulfilling who you are through this exam is not coming to you anymore. You're giving the exam just for the just because you're too used to it. uh, Maybe it's time to consider other things. At the very least, consider other things, if not make a full transition. I just decided to make a clean break because I guess I just was at my tipping point.
Right. All right. So there was another very interesting thing you mentioned, that you liked public speaking, which means that you've been a confident person, fairly confident person. So from that to go to underconfidence, like you said, to now coming back to confidence, how has that journey been? What have been your strategies to get back to a space of confidence?
Right. Like, I personally believe many things can be true at the same time. I don't believe, I believe that even introverted people can be great public speakers. For example, this is not related, but I it's so when I used to do public speaking and stuff, it used to be very structured and it used to be always in my favor, in the sense that it was mostly things about what I knew about what to speak about. But that I could maintain this even when I was underconfident due to my long years of doing just prep. That wasn't really the issue. The public speaking is not the indicator. If that's what I'm actually trying to say. What I'm
Right, right. All
Yeah,
right. So
yeah,
just briefly on how from say confidence to underconfidence to how do you pick
I got
yourself
it.
up?
I got it. So to be honest, it was not like, it was just me deciding that I'm just going to take the plunge and see. It was just, I just felt like I had hit rock bottom, such that even if nothing worked out, let's say I were to try something and it failed for me, I was at that point, I was like, well, it's not going to get worse than this. If I'm at 28, I don't have much to show for, then what could be worse? There is nothing worse. So I'm just going to try, see if I fail. And I did. Even during my job search, I had many places where I applied to which didn't even bother replying to reject me. Like, that's next level. A rejection is one, but it's very kind when they send you a rejection email. But when they don't even bother telling you that you're not going to go ahead with them,
Can
that's
I
even
can I
worse.
add to something there? That's actually
Yeah,
very common. We UPSC aspirants take it very personally, but it's very common to
I
not
agree.
hear from employers at all, even if you have an excellent profile. Just wanted to add
I
that there.
agree. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, like, these are things I didn't know, right? Because I've been shut off, and that's precisely. I just felt like ever since I started learning a whole lot of things about how things work in different worlds, I became slightly more confident. That's, even if I didn't was not per se successful, just witnessing it and just knowing how new things work, the ability to learn and imbibe new things itself made me feel like a better person in that sense.
Right. Uh, People can also ask questions by raising. I think you can send a request. We can allow you to ask or talk or say anything. Ashwath, meanwhile, I wanted to know from you, since you mentioned your views about the exam have evolved, probably your views on diplomacy and the contribution you can make to the world of international relations outside of the UPSC has also evolved. So how has the evolution taken place, and what are the different things that you think of now?
Okay, this all right. This is slightly always going to be slightly controversial, or not. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm speaking to the exact right crowd that I need to. Um, so, in my opinion, I can't speak a whole lot about the administrative police services, etc. I can speak more about diplomacy. Very selfish, I get it, very narcissistic, but nonetheless, something but the only thing I have actual competence in, to be fair. So, like, this is one of the few countries that picks diplomats in this fashion, where it's integrated, where one exam decides the whole thing for everybody. Uh, I don't find that this exam is appropriate for picking Indian diplomats. That's not to take away from the people who pass and stuff. I'm sure they are brilliant people, but it does not. It's not enough. Is my point. Like this is okay, don't even take my word for it. There was a parliamentary committee that had talked about it. They had recommended that the IFS, for example, be bifurcated from this whole, be separated from this, and be because you have to learn about different other subjects such as international relations and law and stuff, which is very superficially done in the with the UPSC exams. And this much I can say with some competence. And I feel like this. So in that sense, this is not. It's also very dehumanizing exam. There are a lot of things about it that I find very problematic. But yeah, I don't know. I think that we should. Personally, I think we should go the way most other countries get diplomats, which is through a very ministry specific platform, um, where it's very specific skills are required for it. Again, not I don't know if it's controversial, but definitely I can sense opposition to this. I probably have arguments about that as well because I think about this way too much. So yeah.
Right, very interesting. And about public service and national service in general, has your view on that changed since you've prepared?
Actually, Jill, yes, it has. I I think it would. I think we all. I think it's like these are aims. When we say national service, public service, I feel that that's a part of our the idealism of our youth, and one must go through that, in my opinion. Like we should enjoy every phase of our life, even the idealistic parts of our youth. When we get slightly older, we think about that cringy part of it. But I believe that we must go through that. Um, so I think as a fact of life, as I grow up, I feel like, of course, it's nice to be able to serve the country, but it's also that I tried to be worthy of it. I wasn't needed in that sphere, and I can't do anything about it. So at this point, since I have, so in that sense, I would all, this is again, something very narcissistic about myself. I feel it's like I say, fine, I tried, it didn't work, they don't want me, so now I can serve myself. I don't know. It seems very transactional. I completely get it when public service is supposed to be very selfless and all of that. But I think that's also going. If you when you get to a point where it feels you're not happy with it and it makes you unhappy, then it doesn't work. You can't serve your country if you're unhappy. That's just how it is. You so the way I see it is that you have to be able to build competence, and more importantly, the whole idea of public service to me has evolved, like in the sense that I think the day before yesterday I was the speaker, I remember what she had said. She said that anything you do technically is public service. If you contribute anywhere meaningfully to your community, to people around you, you make any difference at all, you even earn good money, that's also public service in a way, if you think about it. So by adopting a more broader version of what constitutes public service, I feel that we can be happier and we can be more realistic about how we contribute. At the end, I think it's our wish to contribute something, to be useful to people. That's a very important need of the human mind. Even when it leads to self-actualization, that you are useful to everyone around you. And I think UPSC, when you're going through the prep phase, you are never felt to be useful to anybody else. You're doing the same thing as everyone. You're studying the same thing as everyone does, but it's not being employed anywhere. And let me tell you, like you can imagine the horror on my face when I realized that me spending hours to learn about every national park in the country did not was not useful to my workplace. So in this case, the lack of skilling really was a bummer. I was sad that I was not able to do a lot of things and that I have to learn from scratch. A lot of people learn with quite a lot of ease because they spend some time doing it. So in that sense, I don't know, my views on public service also, I think, have evolved. But also, like, I can see how people can think that it's not really out there, it's still very narcissistic, selfish. But I accept it. Yes, I have become more selfish over time. That's just how life is. I think maybe my age has sort of made me think differently.
Right, interesting. So the idealism is washed off, is what I'm gauging. Okay, coming to the session that you mentioned had that had an impact on you. Would you want to elaborate a little bit more on, was it the fact that there were other people like you? Was it the relatability quotient? Was it just hearing a psychologist who's been through all of this talk about how this is not your burden to take forward? What was it about that session that stuck with you and that kind of helped you in the way it did?
Jeel, the thing is, to be honest, I was initially just very curious because I had actually never been to therapy before in my life. Okay. I used to think, so people used to tell me sometimes that maybe you should seek therapy, but it's like a chicken and egg situation. Like, I'm unemployed. I can't get money for regular sessions and things like that. I kept putting it off. That's another weird thing I used to say to myself. Like, yeah, you know what? I'll clear and I'll go to the therapist to unburden myself later on. All weird stuff I used to do. Nonetheless, when Arushi was the psychologist we had that day. There was everything you just mentioned. That first of all, I met other peers. I heard their problems. For example, I remember this one gentleman who told all of us that he feels angry for no reason. He's snapping at his parents and things like that. These are all things that I started feeling. That I also felt, and I just felt like there was literally nobody else I could have told about this except people who have gone through what I have. That, and people won't understand it beyond a certain. So that is one. I finally find a community of peers who have gone through the same experience as I have. Second, it was very relieving to hear things like it's not my burden to bear, that I don't have to, there's nothing I have to do, that these are all a matter of choices we make because we are made to feel that these are the burdens we must carry. So someone telling you don't have to do this anymore. No one else tells you this during the phase. If anything, during your prep phase, all you do is hear everyone else talk about the opposite, about how I should do it, why you should. I still had friends who kept telling me I should keep writing another attempt, but nobody told me why. The why should come from you, to be honest. But the fact that I couldn't find my why anyway, at this point, if someone tells you don't have to, then that was just like, well, wow, that changes a lot of things. So it was a combination of factors. It was just an environment that felt very comforting. I just could I just could unburden myself there. And I could, to be honest, like one thing I felt. So I remember when I got my results after my prelims, I was already preparing for mains, like a lot of us do. Like, you hear, you don't wait for the results and stuff, you already start because that's what everyone tells you. Don't wait. Start preparing for your mains. I started writing answers and stuff. All I could feel was, I'm feeling miserable. I hate writing this. It's very pointless activity at that time for me. Of course, everyone else, a lot of others will think otherwise. And then I just felt, then I couldn't admit this to anyone, but when I realized that I didn't have to do it anymore, I felt free, that I didn't have to write answers over and over again. And then uh, I didn't find any do something which I found which no longer had utility. So just that, it for me, it changed everything. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to explore other aspects of my life. I'm going to employ my skills elsewhere where I am needed, not because I need to go through a grind to prove anything to anybody. That's what I think I took most from the session that day. I'm very grateful to Shows Beyond UPSC to this date, because that was very life changing for me.
Right. That's extremely good to know for all of us at Shores. And okay, so I also wanted to know, what did you feel, if you felt anything at all, when the UPSC 2021 results were announced, and you probably saw things on Twitter, on other platforms, in the news maybe. Was there any feeling, any reaction to the results?
Mm, I was actually yesterday was not a very nice day for me, because I've been doing a little dwelling on it. I looked at my marks, for example. I realized that I was unfortunately not very close either. So I had a certain sadness wash over me about, it's a very specific kind of sadness, one that cannot, um, It's a sadness of not being realizing that you're not good at something. That's it. It's a very localized thing. It's okay. We often get to that. It's some you try different things, you realize you're not good at something. Usually, when you're a kid and you realize you're not good at something, okay, you move on to something else. All your life. The problem was that I realized that that I had based my life off of this. My identity, unfortunately, was tied to this. And suddenly I just felt like, everything I did was a lie. So it's a lot of regret. Uh, as far as the looking at others' posts and stuff like that, I think, yeah, of course, there's a lot of people getting congratulated and stuff. And, I can only imagine the happiness in their minds. I'm sure uh, they would have also. What I'm banking on is that, many years down the line, in a certain other trajectory where I'm doing decently well, or life is going okay, I will look at this as a phase that I had to go through. I would look at it from the fact that, macro perspective, this was only one phase of my life. Right now, of course, the pain is fresh, which is why I put a lot of emotional sort of attachment to it. But somewhere down in my heart, it's about, okay, many years down the line, it will not be a big deal. It's like exactly how you go through breakup. Like right at the moment, it feels like the worst thing ever. You live life, and then eventually one day you realize, what, that's okay, that was fun while it lasted. Then you reminisce the good parts, if any. I don't know if I'll reminisce the good parts about the UPSC. I don't remember any good parts of the UPSC yet, my prep phase or anything. But yeah, that's what I'm banking on right now. Every year, one thing I will say though, like, it's a little alarming to me how we put everyone on a pedestal, especially for clearing this exam. We don't we must see even people who pass as humans like us, that they are also people who will go through life's different challenges which you cannot evade. This is not an exam that makes you, it will not make you happy. It's an exam for a job, technically speaking. So in that sense, I try to see it that way, that none of us are immune to the problems of life, and we must enjoy whatever we have at the moment. Again, very easy for me to say, especially at this point of time where the meaning of the results is different to different people. But yeah, I mean, this is all I can give. That's unfortunate. It's not that much, but this is all I can give.
Right. Just curious, did you have an upper limit of attempts that you were going to take when you entered preparation?
Yes,
Or did
all
you?
six.
All right. So, so you thought that you would take all six, but you ended up not doing that because at one
Yeah.
point you realized that you're done with it.
I feel like it's a Sisyphean task, except Sisyphus also started enjoying his work at some point of time, right? Like, okay, fine. When we talk about Sisyphus and the fact that he was condemned to move the rock up his whole life and it'll go down, he has to repeat the process all over again. At some point of time, Sisyphus learned to enjoy the small joys about that very journey. I don't think I would do that in this case. I cannot see the whole point anyway. So at some point, I guess it was just that. Of course, there's a lot of emotion attached to that, and it's very hard. See, that's the thing. I think when we transition out, it's almost like beating addiction, right? We try to resist it. We want to prolong the feeling of the onset of the pain. But the truth is that we have to. I feel that we must face the pain, face these very unpleasant thoughts about our own, whatever we are going to feel negatively about ourselves. Yeah, it's that, is this, I'm not good, etc. Let's get it out. Feel that way. Then when you realize yourself, when you go out, you learn about the world, you see that, okay, you know what, I'm not as bad as I thought I was. It'll help slowly, but we need to sort of get into the pain. That's how I believe it. Of course, this is not something I can recommend for everyone, but this is how I see life.
Right. Very interesting. So UPSC preparation is like addiction. That is an interesting perspective. I'd also like to add, if anyone wants to say anything or ask anything, please feel free to request and we will allow you to the speaker podium. Uh, Ashwath, any positives of the preparation phase? Anything that you take, any quality that you developed Probably reading the newspaper every day, or
Yes.
anything.
Now the way I made it sound, of course I get it. Like I've made it sound like this is an absolutely horrible process and there's nothing you can learn out of this and all, but that's not true. There's a lot of things I'm certain that I took from it that I don't even know of. That's very unconscious. That's also reality. One thing I must say that I feel like I have been tested in the sense that because I feel like I've gone through this, I I know that I'm capable of hard work. Uh, I know that I know to what extent I can do things. Even though I have learned to not, like as Sargam said, the world doesn't owe you anything, and that's how I think this was a cruel lesson in that, in the sense that yes, the world doesn't owe you anything. That you need to be thinking, you need to aspire at least to think more rationally about things, and that not to take losses very personally. Of course, it's very hard to say. It's very easy to say, but very hard to actually implement. It's simple, but it's difficult. So there is some amount of resilience that I would say that I achieved. um, it made me, for example, I could say that at least in the curriculum aspect of it, it made me understand. It would teach you how to learn. It teaches you, it you learn how to learn, in the sense that you're forced to understand different concepts at a very, even if it's at a superficial level, but on a more widespread scale. So that will always be useful to you wherever you go. Trust me on that. In my job personally, I'm a geopolitical risk analyst. I have to learn new things all the time on the fly, because that's how the world works. That has been helpful. Other than that, I am not sure. Again, it could be unconscious. But these two things I think are a great positive about the UPSC process. But I would add a caveat here. There is a diminishing marginal utility to this. You do it over about 1 2 years. You cannot do that. It doesn't get infinitely better. It's the utilities, you lose the utility. It is my advice that if you're curious about things, maybe you should seek other avenues as well. But yeah, this is what I feel is some of the positives that I must admit about the UPSC process.
Right, very interesting. Uh, do you want to tell us a little bit about how, if you've thought enough about it, on how you want to or how you see your career from now in the space of international relations or whatever else that you choose to explore? How is your view towards your career different from what it was earlier, and how do you approach career planning now?
Jeel, the as far as career is concerned, of course, it was I was very singularly minded about it. I hadn't given anything a lot of thought. I'm sure a lot of aspirants also do that. They feel like, it's an all or nothing attitude, that we need to give our all. Others, we are not true to ourselves. We are not true to the process, and we will fail. That's what we misperceive as the precondition of writing UPSC and things like that, in my opinion. Now that I'm out of it, I find first of all, I was absolutely flummoxed to understand that there are many subfields in the world which I hadn't even heard of, which are infinitely interesting, and there are subfields emerging in every sector every day. Like, it's all emerging. So in that sense, it's a very exciting world out there if we decide to step out and try something else. I would recommend our friends here, everyone, like, even if you want to attempt UPSC again, um, definitely look at some other things first and then circle back to it if age allows you, if circumstances allow you. I would definitely do that. As far as I'm concerned, in my career, like, I have come to realize that my field is actually pretty promising. For context, I'm a Middle East analyst, and I provide a lot of so I basically gauge geopolitical risk, which is in some way an intersection between what we do in UPSC as well, especially in geography, politics, economics, and things like that. So I feel like in that sense there is a lot of opportunity for me. I'm still, like, I still need to know. There are things I don't know about it, but I'm very excited to find out. And now that I'm free, I can think about it. the fact that I can spend time doing career planning, it is flexible now, because I don't know, it's also very flexible. Yeah, I don't know, so I can move to things I want. I'm not even thinking about a singular career anymore. I'm thinking about, at some point of time, if I want to transition to another sector, that's something I can do. Why not? If I can move out of singularly thinking about being a diplomat into going into geopolitical risk and things like that, why can't I move into something else? So, but the very fact that there are possibilities has been pretty life changing for me, to be very honest with you.
Right. Uh, Ashwath, any remnants of the preparation phase, Ashwath, that you still carry with you in terms of mental health, in terms of you said you mentioned a couple of things that had happened to you. You would snap, become angry, uh, you wouldn't smile. Any remnants that are with you? You smile now more. That's something
Yes,
you
that's right.
mentioned earlier. But apart from that, any remnants with you?
Yeah, you can probably hear the smile in my voice as well sometimes. That's what at
We
least
can,
people
we
tell
can.
me. Yeah, exactly. So, um, okay, I do juggle self doubt, but that I don't think has to do with UPSC alone. That's just sometimes how life is. And of course, it is accentuated by maybe long periods of not being successful at something. Other than that, not anymore. I think at some point I disassociated. Look, I'll be very honest with everyone here. Like, since then, I never actually explored my own feelings about it. I think this is the first time I'm talking about my own UPSC journey and my feelings about it. After the session that day, I remember after the session in October, I spoke to Sargam for a very long time over call, and that I think was the last time. Now that I have a job, I want to explore my feelings a little bit more, to see what I maybe there are things that I have repressed over time, I've forgotten deliberately or not. All of these things. I think there is a lot of emotion I've not dealt with. I'm being very candid and brutally honest with everyone, because I would like everyone to see me for the flawed person I am as well. I am. I mean, I like to embrace that more, in fact. So yeah, those are some things. I'm not angry anymore and stuff. That's there. um, at the very least, I have some sense of optimism. Earlier it was just that, I'm just living life for the sake of existence, and just that. It's just simple, very small objective: survive another day. Now I don't think about survive another day. I think I'm looking forward to the future more optimistically. I want to see. I want to, there are I want things. I want to occupy more space in this world. For example, earlier I used to think that's very burdensome. I don't want I don't want to give anybody any burden. But now I feel like, I don't know, again, somewhere I feel that's also very narcissistic, that I have to occupy more space in the world. Then how much will they be left with everyone around? But nonetheless, I feel like I'm human. I have certain needs that I need to fulfill. I don't need to be treated a certain way. I don't need to treat myself a certain way in that sense. I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with my friend about the interview stage of my job, where my employer, he's Israeli, and I told him about the process, and for him, he asked me, "Oh, so did you get feedback from the UPSC?" I almost scoffed at him, because to all of us, the UPSC giving individualized feedback to all, how many were 5 lakh, 10 lakh aspirants, is laughable, right? But then it struck me that this is not an unreasonable ask. We should not feel like we are not worthy of feedback. And the fact that we scoff at something like this is a reflection on the system, not us.
Right. Um, One of my last questions, probably then you can leave us with your parting or concluding thoughts. Uh, are you kinder to yourself now?
I think I am. I am. I feel like I prioritize myself more, my own well-being and things like that. I don't see it as selfish. I don't think it's wrong for me to want to take care of myself. As I said, it's just a shock. It's not a shock. We know this. All these truths are within us. We know that UPSC doesn't care about us. Nobody owes us anything. We know it deep down. We wish for that life is little easier for us. That's just us being human. uh, now that I feel like I'm taking active measures to take care of myself, I feel like, yeah, it's like it's like me constantly patting myself on the back, which I feel is very necessary. You're That's what I don't think anybody should feel like you're not good enough or something like that. The metric by which you're being judged is not adequate measure to judge who you are as a human being and what you need and what you require from life. You are deserving of happiness. You are deserving of love. You are deserving of everything that you need. You Just because the process is dehumanizing doesn't make you less of a human. You are very much entitled to that very basic decency. And no, the unfortunate truth is that others will not give it to you. You have to give it to yourself, and that's a start. And everyone is, yeah, that's what everyone's deserving. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I tend to ramble at times, but yeah, this is what I'm hoping is the overarching theme of these sessions as well.
Right. So now to conclude, I want you to leave the listeners with thoughts on, especially for those who are, so how about you address two sets of aspirants, those who are entering preparation and those who are probably transitioning from preparation. So your thoughts, words of advice to these two sets of aspirants.
Okay, so when it comes to talking about the ones who are entering into prep, it's almost like me talking to my younger self, and I talk to my younger self all the time. Little, it's little weird that I keep talking to myself all the time, but I like myself a lot these days. I find it very entertaining. Anyway, what I would tell someone who is entering the prep stage is to be more realistic about the chances. Statistically alone, 99.95 is the failure rate. We all like to believe that we are 0.005. Maybe you are. The fact that it exists as a chance is still this thing, but I think it would make you happier if you are prepared for the failure more than you're prepared for success. And of course, you must give it your all. Maybe that's just simply how it is. But know but you should be worried about the dangers of being sucked in too deep, where if you feel at some point of time that there's nothing else, that is where you are sort of in danger. You need to always understand that you are your own individual. You're a sovereign individual by yourself. You can move on to some things. You should, in my opinion, you should treat it as one of the jobs available to you, that this is the exam for one of the employers you have. And be more this is we live in a day and age, thank god we live in a day and age with like technology and the ability to find a job. Of course, it's not the same. We'll always face the challenges, but be prepared for these. Don't be deluded by the success stories of the ones who are in. That is not always going to be true. In fact, the opposite is true. We don't see the failure stories in the papers, but that is actually more likely going to be our fate. This is statistics. This is not even my opinion. So you have to be very realistic about how this works. Please learn from my mistakes. I did not for I waited too long. I did nothing else, and it made me extremely vulnerable. That you do not want to be vulnerable. So be realistic. Where you don't find it serving you, please consider moving on. There's no shame in it. You should not listen to your friends who keep telling you, no, give it, bro. It's like, come on, you should do that. No, but you owe your bros nothing. Absolutely nothing. If it suits you, do it. To the ones who are transiting out, I mean, I can relate to you a little bit more, I feel. Uh, World is, yes, you may hear horror stories about how it's hard to get a job and how employers don't look upon very favorably if you have a lot of gap years and things like that. But you need, okay, here's the thing, own your story. You sat for UPSC, you were not dealing drugs on the side or anything or doing anything illegal on the side. You were doing something for your dreams, and it was about a noble career or whatever it is. Own that story. When I spoke about it, I was very honest about my failures and things like that. And I told with a lot of conviction that I did what I did. I have no regrets. You should own your story. But if you have decided this is the end of the road as far as UPSC is concerned, you should mention that as well. Maybe we can discuss all of that in a future session of shows beyond UPSC, how to tweak your job prospects in these cases. um, you you may find slight difficulty here and there, but to be honest, job searches are absolutely terrible. Even if you weren't going through this, you were going to always face some sort of trouble and rejection and all of this. This is part of life. You've faced a lot of rejection already. It's just a little bit more. You will get through it. That's one thing they say about UPSC aspirants, that they all, whatever happens, they end up doing well outside. This is very true. Like, I know everyone, absolutely everyone I know who has transitioned out, they're doing amazing things for themselves, and sometimes they don't even remember that they were doing UPSC. That I can say with like some reasonable level of certainty, that this can also be you. This is most likely going to be you as well. You will do amazing. So, and I personally, I'm giving out a lot of like, I wish you the best. I wish for you to make a great transition out, such that for you this was a passing phase and not something you really think about all the time. I'm very sorry I take up so much time speaking. Yeah, here you go. Thank you.
That's completely okay. We have one question or thoughts or comments. Abhishek, do you want to go ahead? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, hello to all. I am audible.
Yes, Abhishek, please.
Yes, sir. So my profile is I give two attempts and I failed. But I have also done PG in political science. In the past, I worked with NGO relating to underprivileged children, and my core interest is to work in the governance only, even in the private sector, if in the future if I work. And my core fields are education, health, and environment. But I don't know where to go if I end my journey with the UPSC. Till today, I just see the governance part which the government play, and with the UPSC, I feel I have that authority to work with. But if I want to quit my UPSC preparation, but my core interest is the governance, so where else can I go to work with that?
Ashwath, any thoughts on how you can find the niche?
Yes, I okay. What I want to say about that, I'm so sorry. Can you please mute yourself? Oh yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, all right. So as far as a lot of people, here's the thing: they share the passion for governance and things, and you know what? Genuinely, they are good at it. Especially the UPSC aspect is just an added plus, because it's about the corridors of power and being more authoritative and actually doing a lot of things. I completely get that, but it is my experience, at least now, that a lot of people are actually getting into the governance space, into policy circles. So there are several options for you. One, there is think tanks. Uh, Several of them are there. For example, I mean, I don't, to be very honest with you, I'm not very much into the public governance space and things like that. So there'll be limitations on what I can tell you. But I know for a fact that there are think tanks, there are also NGOs, they also pay a decent amount of money and things like that. There Sometimes ministries have consultants which you can apply externally. That's a good option. What else? You can also think about the academia part about of governance. It depends on your inclination, of course, but there are up and coming courses and places like that who will appreciate if you have prior experience and things like that. If you can contribute academically, there are public universities now which are teaching things like governance and things like that. The space is expanding because this is a very important space, and I'm certain as UPSC aspirants you will have a lot to offer. It takes a little bit of research. Of course, I've not been helpful by not specifying the specific areas or companies or groups where you can apply, but these are the sectors in which I feel you can make a difference. Yeah. Again, sorry that it's not specific, but I'm hoping that this is some clarity. But the fact is, government is not the only space now. Governance is now slowly becoming more decentralized. The government itself is outsourcing a lot of their functions to NGOs and all of that. So you will definitely see some opportunity there. It's in my opinion.
Right. Thank you for that, Ashwath. Thank you, Abhishek, for your question. I hope that fairly comprehensively answered what you wanted to know. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. If anyone has any other last comments or thoughts, to leave us with, you can request. Do I see any request? All right, so I think we have none right now. But thank you so much, Ashwath, for making time and tuning in and sharing your journey, your transition story, and your thoughts with all of us and giving us a lot of food for thought.
I
I
just
hope, yeah.
want to say one thing. I just want to thank you for like the fact that I think we live in a great time where we have a support group for aspirants. Very few will understand what we go through. We can't fall back on other people. Sometimes we can't even fall back on other aspirants as such. We can only, if it's only a focus space like this where we can do that. I'm so grateful that this exists. I'm so happy to see so many people here. And again, I'm very grateful, and I wish everyone like all the very best.
Right, we have Prabhat. Do you want to go ahead, sir?
Hi, Sargam. Am I talking to Sargam?
I am Jeel. Sargam is there
Okay. Yeah, Lee.
online.
Yeah, Jheel. Sorry, Jheel. We have talked earlier. So there's
Yes,
this
yes,
guy.
we spoke
I
earlier.
don't remember his name. He asked what were the options for him in governance, and I thought I
Right,
should pitch in slightly. So in general, when you clear
sure, go ahead.
UPSC, you or at least aspirants think they might be they might be doing almost anything and everything in there, but in governance, how I segregate things, as in, uh, if I don't clear UPSC, there are 3 4 ways in which I can still be in governance. So one aspect is academia and research. So that is like back end of governance. Then the second aspect is actually being practitioner. Actually being practitioner, one way is go for NGOs, as in people who are in non-profit, or go and work with districts and administrators. So working with districts and administrators, you are almost working like bureaucrats, or you can work with NGOs. So that is practitioner. The third and very booming aspect of it is solution provider. So governance is no more only ordering someone who has a power, a lot of resources, and he's ordering and someone is listening. That's no more what governance is right now. So what I think is that there is a lot of opportunity in solution providing. That can be so he can join people who are working with data in governance. He can explore, I mean, one can explore people who are working with tech in governance and providing solutions to the administrator these days. So if he's a techie, tech in governance, any interest in data and all, analytics in governance, if practitioner, go to NGOs or work with administrators, start something of your own. If academia, if he has an academic interest, go for further studies, do MS, do PhD, go for higher education, or do research, or go to think tanks. So I think Ashwath was naming some of these, as in listing some of these opportunities. I think these are the ones which one can explore. The most booming of these is providing solutions to governance, and governance needs a lot of solutions. The people who are inside are just doing firefighting, doing nothing innovative. People who could not be inside, believe me, they can provide that innovative support the uh, to the bureaucrats who are considered to be governing. They're basically just firefighting. So solution providers are, and solution providing is the biggest opportunity which I see in governance. I hope I was helpful to whoever was asking.
Abhishek, that was.
Thank you so much, sir. I think you exactly gave what I need in my for my answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhat, sir.
Cool, cool. Sargam and Ji, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And we hope to see you even tomorrow. We'll come back and explore other dimensions of transitioning from UPSC preparation. Thank you. Good night.